The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to The Money Hour on 570 KVI, the Sunday, November 3rd show. I'm your host, Tina Mitchell, and mortgage expert. Thank you for taking time to talk money. I'm here every Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on 570 KVI, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events and how the local economy, how it can affect our money and everything regarding your money. And my guest today for the lineup on the show, Greg Nunn, been in studio before. For those of you that have not listened and heard his segment, he is my personal CPA, Certified Public Accountant. Today we're going to talk about Obamacare and what you should know when it comes to your taxes. Second guest in studio, I have first time Tere with Winderemere Real Estate East, the real estate market for buyer and seller. There's some things you should probably be beware of, and that's why I've invited Tere into studio to share with my listeners today. And last guest, another first-time guest into studio, is Ken Davidson with Davidson and Kilpatric. What are questions you should ask a real estate lawyer in today's real estate market? That's what Ken's going to share with our listeners. Great information, great guest in studio today. For more information, or if you'd like to talk to any of my guests, please write down my phone number, 1-888-987-0570. Again, the show number is 1-888-987-0570, or online at themoneyhour.com. And let's go ahead and start out with the show with a little money chat. So today I thought I would share with all of you mortgage questions or questions to ask your mortgage professional. If you're in the market right now, there's a lot of activity going on in the real estate market. As you know, as a regular listener to the show, or if you didn't know, my expertise is actually mortgage. So that's the piece of the money tree that I represent is actually the money and doing mortgages. So there's some key questions when finding the right mortgage consultant to make sure that you're working with someone that knows what they're doing, has your best interest, and has the right things that are needed to make the process go smooth. So first question I would ask is about the pre-approval process. You want to make sure that your mortgage consultant is not going to have an upfront fee to meet with them to talk about mortgages. There may be a credit report fee. You shouldn't have to pay one, but there might be a fee, a small fee to pay for credit. But other than that, you don't want to pay any upfront application fees, and make sure that they're going through the process and talking to you about pre-approval and actually providing a pre-approval letter, which basically means that all of your documentation is being reviewed prior to issuing a letter. The other one is pre-qualification. That's just basically an estimate of what they feel that you might approve for, which is not going to be as strong or what you need in this environment as far as making an offer on a home. Also, you want to ask the question about locking in interest rates through the pre-approval process, that you are not in a position to lock interest rates. And it's surprising to me to find out a lot of consumers that don't realize during the approval process that their rate is not locked. It's pretty important because your mortgage payment and what that is going to calculate out to, ultimately how you're going to be targeting your price, is going to be around your objective and a payment. Interest rate obviously is going to have a big impact on what that payment is going to be. So understanding that during the pre-approval process, unless you already have a home, you're not going to be locking in your interest rate. And the reason why is because you have to have an actual property address that you're going to be locking the rate to, as well as a particular period of time that you're going to lock the interest rate in for. Now, also understanding when you have the ability to lock in your interest rate as soon as your offer's been accepted on your home. Surprising, a lot of consumers are not educated on that process and miss out an opportunity to be in a position to lock in your interest rate. So as soon as your offer is accepted on your home, you're in a position to lock the interest rate at that time. Now, anybody being able to predict what the interest rate market is going to do in the short term or even the long term is really difficult, because otherwise there'd be a lot of money that we could make if we could predict that. And I will tell you that all experts are right 50% of the time. So whether you should lock or not, you need to make that decision and make an educated decision yourself. But what I will tell you, doing mortgages for as long as I have, usually you don't see a drastic decrease in interest rates over a short period of time, but I've seen interest rates move up very, very quickly in a short period of time. Usually the good things in life happen a little bit slower than the bad things. Now, in this environment recently that we have seen drastic decrease in interest rate, which is out of the norm, but we've seen interest rates drop down drastically within a closing period. So here's what you need to ask. Make sure that your mortgage company that you're working with has a float down option. Float down option means that once you've locked in your interest rate, you actually go back to the bank and there's a renegotiation or a float down opportunity based on interest rates going down. Now that's kind of cool, because you can't go and buy a stock and then trade it in when the stock decreases, but you actually can go in and lock in an interest rate if you're with the right lender and get a one-time free float down. Now, it doesn't work the other way around. If you don't lock in your interest rate and you miss out, you can't go back and say, I wish I could have gotten that interest rate. Now, there are some guidelines, or there's some requirements around that float down option, and I don't have enough time to go through all of them, but basically the market has to drop down enough. The lender's not going to just float down with 1/8% decrease in rate. They need to go down more than 1/4%. You've got a one-time float down opportunity, and it has to take place after you have final loan approval. So pick up the phone, give me a call if you have any questions on that at all. If you're in the in process of closing right now, ask the question and call my show if you need some more details on that. Ask about discount points and understanding the cost associated with a loan. A lot of times people think that there's one interest rate available. There's not. There's a range of interest rates available at the time that you lock in your interest rate. What you want to make sure that you're doing is looking at all of the options for locking in. So if you want to do a no closing cost loan, there's a no closing cost loan. Now, trust me, third-party vendors are going to get paid. The appraiser, the escrow company, title insurance, everybody's going to get paid. But you can do a no closing cost loan by increasing the interest rate where the bank is going to pay back a rebate enough to cover all of the costs associated with your loan. Now, is that the best option for you? Most likely not, unless you're going to be keeping the property very short term. But look at the numbers so you can see the analysis and weigh out all of your options. On the other extreme, you want to look at paying discount points. So here's what I do for my clients. I always show a 2% fee in discount points, a 1% fee, a 0.5%, a 0% fee, and a no closing cost loan. There's your 5 options. Take a look and make sure you analyze on the difference. And the numbers are green or red. It just depends on how long you plan on keeping your property. And it's very simple to be able to analyze once you have the data. Loan options is something else you want to make sure that you're really understanding the loan options that are available. Now, I've brought to studio a lot during Money Chat different loan options and broken it down. But just understanding that there's options, you want to make sure that you're comparing all of them to make the right decision on the program that you're choosing. And also down payment options. If you've got options to come in with money for a down payment, make sure that you're looking at those options, also analyzing the difference between not coming in with down payment. Make sure you're making the right choice there as well. Never enough time during Money Chat. Pick up the phone, give me a call, 1-888-987-0570. Also make sure you have a closing guarantee in your pre-approval letter. Your lender wants to, you want to make sure they're backing up your closing. I say $1,000. If they don't do the commitment on time, then they're out some money. And on that note, coming up on the Money Hour, get ready for Internal Revenue Service to play a dominant role in healthcare, Obamacare, and the IRS. What's the impact? Well, I got just the person here to answer that question. Greg Nunn, Certified Public Accountant, coming up next on 570 KBI after this short break.
Are you losing sleep because of anxiety with the IRS? Gregory Nunn, a certified tax resolution specialist and certified public accountant, and his team are the rescue squad for troubled taxpayers. A client recently wrote, Greg's team is extremely organized and efficient. Greg has a wide range of tax understanding and was able to manage and mitigate an IRS audit with a settlement for pennies on the dollar. If you're looking for a well-rounded and honest accountant, Greg is your man. Learn more at GregNunnCPA.com. All tax problems are unique and the outcome of each case can be very different.
Isn't it time you start getting what you want? I'm Jason Watacha, owner of Noble Ridge Construction, specialist in custom home building and remodeling. It's time to make yourself happy and create the home that fits your desires and style. That process starts by visiting us at nobleridgeconstruction.com or follow us on Facebook to get inspired. You can also see featured custom lots available, architects, and Signature Series homes for sale by us. nobleridgeconstruction.com. That's nobleridgeconstruction.com. Dreams begin here.
Free electricity from your roof? It's possible with solar energy. Here's Amy from Solterra Systems.
There's never been a better time to install solar in Washington, and yes, we do get enough sun. Incentives cover over 50% of the installation cost, and zero down financing is available. Enjoy watching your meter run backwards this summer by installing solar now.
Go to useyourroof.com to find out how easy it can be. That's useyourroof.com or call 800-865-9005 to get your free site assessment from Solterra Systems.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I am here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. In studio now, Greg Nunn, certified public accountant, not only a CPA, but he is my personal CPA, only one that I have come in and represent on our show. And he's here to discuss taxes and Obamacare. How are they related and how will this be impacted by the IRS? Greg, thank you again for coming in.
Tina, thank you for having me again. I appreciate that.
Little introduction on Greg. He has been practicing for nearly 30 years. He is also a certified tax resolution specialist, the only one in the greater Seattle East Side area, and that's why I choose him to be my personal CPA. His practice is located in Redmond, Washington, with the focus on his practice being tax return preparation, tax planning, and tax problem resolution. Greg was recently awarded top practitioner by the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers. And there's my introduction for you.
Well, thank you very much, Tina.
Sounded pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
So let's get right into it, Greg. Let's talk about Obamacare. What is the red tape alert?
The red tape alert is for those that like a lot of red tape, they will love Obamacare. That is because the legislation itself is over 2,500 pages, and the law is 2,500 pages, and the regulations are over 20,000 pages. 20,000
oh my gosh!
Pages.
Do we expect anything different with the IRS?
The IRS is in charge of putting this plan into place regarding monitoring individuals and to see if they are properly covered by Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act or ACA, whichever you like to think about it.
So, Greg, what can an individual expect with Obamacare?
Changes and lots of changes.
Sounds like my industry.
The act itself creates more than 50 changes to the tax code.
Wow.
One of the biggest changes the IRS has had to implement in over 30 years. So this is a very, very large change. There'll be more reporting requirements for individuals. So when you prepare or have your tax return prepared next year for the 2014 year, you will be required to include in that tax return information regarding your health care and if you are properly covered by the Obamacare Act.
Wow. So, Greg, let's talk about, since in my arena, and Tere, our second guest in studio, as a realtor, so she would appreciate this information as well. Let's talk about selling your home.
Well, there's some interesting new taxes that are included with the Affordable Care Act. One of those is a Medicare tax on investment income. And this is the first time that a Medicare tax has been applied to investment income. And that tax rate is 3.8%. And this all depends on a person's income level and filing status, etc. But it can have an impact on the sale of a home. That is, if you qualify, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, you may be paying 3.8% on the gain on the sale of your property.
Wow, that's going to kind of suck.
It would suck. Now, of course, the current market, if you want to think of it being fortunately, as we know, dropped through the floor not too long ago, and not everything has recovered fully yet. But still, for that long-term homeowner, this could be a real hit.
Well, and it could be a hit to, to obviously the market and what the market's doing. When people are looking have to pay that, they're going to rethink possibly in selling their home.
They possibly might.
Yeah, wow.
But it does give opportunity for some tax planning if a person is selling their home.
Okay. And which I know there's a lot, and that's the key. I mean, take down our phone number, 1-888-987-0570, or pick up the phone and give the show a call. You can talk to Greg directly, because that really is what everything regarding money, but even more so when it comes to tax planning, is just really understanding what those strategies are, because a lot of times you can't back up and go backwards. You need to know how to make those right decisions before you make the wrong ones. Now, what about the impact on an individual?
Yeah, the impact on an individual, and we're talking primarily here about the individual mandate. First of all, the changes are more than we would ever have time to discuss today. But a few of those are, each individual would be required to have the minimum essential coverage. Minimum essential coverage is the phrase that's actually in the law. And if a person, an individual, if you do not have that coverage, then you will be subject to fines when you prepare or have your tax return prepared. So it's a big change for a personal person or for an individual. And it's just going to be another component of your tax return that you'll be reporting on. And hey, to be kind of selfish or self-centered, if you will, it just means more fees for me.
Oh, you're so bad, Greg. So the IRS can come after a listener if they don't maintain the minimum essential coverage, correct?
Correct.
And then there's a penalty. What is that? What is that penalty?
The penalty starts out at $95 per adult, $47.50 per child.
Doesn't sound bad.
No, that's for 2014, but by 2016, it goes up to $695 per adult.
Okay.
With a maximum penalty of $2,085, or
that's a little more.
2.5% of your income.
So are they giving you some time to figure this out, or
are they giving us some time to figure this out? No, this is not like the website. This is law, and right now it will be in place for 2014.
So, Greg, let's talk about if a listener can qualify for premium subsidies.
There are subsidies out there, and many of us have heard those. And like anything, it seems, that goes through the government, it's, again, a lot of different details and red tape as to what level you might qualify for. Mm-hmm. But you can qualify for the subsidy up to 400% of the poverty level. So the poverty level right now is considered $23,000.
Okay.
So 400% of that, or 4 times $23,000, is $94,200 for a family of 4. So that family of 4's income, if you have that kind of income, less than $94,200, and you are a family of 4, you will qualify for some type of subsidy.
And then what about, because I know there's changes, obviously, to our current insurance. Can you break that down for our listeners?
With our current insurance, if it does not contain the minimum essential coverage, then your current insurance will be canceled. And that, unfortunately, is what a lot of people are experiencing around the country. Mm-hmm. And so you should, if you haven't yet, talk to your insurance broker or to your insurance carrier about your current plan and see if it does, in fact, qualify for the minimum essential requirements. Mm-hmm. And if it does not, then look about what your options might be.
Okay. And what about the different insurance plans?
Yeah, there's a lot of different plans out there. I've been to the Washington State website, and it's actually a very good site. And there are kind of 4 levels of plans. similar to Olympic medals, if you will. There's a bronze plan, a silver plan, gold plan, and platinum plan. And as you can probably gather, as you go up the scale of those precious metals, the more coverage you will have, and the higher price the premiums will be.
Got it. So in summary, Greg, let's go through the options for individuals.
Yeah, one thing to think about is that with these penalties, that the IRS is in charge of collecting those penalties, but Congress did not give them the authority to physically go out and collect those penalties. So if a person is in the situation where they have a penalty, the IRS cannot do a levy, they cannot do a lien, they cannot charge you interest for not paying the penalty.
Okay.
So the question is, okay, so an individual, what are my options? Well, everyone is required to have the insurance. So if you decide to file your tax return and not pay the penalty because you don't have coverage, well, that's an option. I'm not suggesting that, because you should comply with the law. The second one is, well, you could file the tax return without any insurance and you pay the penalty, or you get the insurance and there's no penalty, but you do have the premium on the insurance policy that you'd have to pay for.
Got it. Okay. So, Greg, I'm sure there's some of my listeners out there that are just really confused and overwhelmed by Obamacare. And I have to admit that there's a lot of confusion for me. What's the most common misconception that you're seeing?
I think really there's two.
Or hearing. One
is people believing that they can maintain or retain their current insurance policy.
Yep.
But if it doesn't have that minimal...
Well, weren't we promised that? Okay, we're not... never mind. We're not getting into that side of it. We already had that conversation.
Yeah, it's just really we need to look at what the law is today and be prepared to comply with it. So there is that minimum essential coverage, and sometimes people have their policy canceled. But other people are experiencing, as we've heard in the news, higher rates, and I hope your rates don't go up, because it can be quite a bit. I was surprised. I looked at myself on how much it would go up, and it's substantial.
Yeah.
And fortunately, those that have a good plan now will not have to participate in the exchange.
So, Greg, maybe on the same question, maybe not, but I mean, what's the most common question that you're getting right now? Is that it?
The common question is, are my insurance rates going to go up, and is my policy going to be canceled?
Okay.
That seems to be the primary consideration right now for each individual. And I understand that. And then, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
And then there's all the reporting requirements that are going to come after that, not only for the individual, but their insurance company will report your coverage to the Internal Revenue Service. So they will know. And believe me, the IRS knows.
They know everything.
Everything.
So should I ask IRS role in enforcing Obamacare?
Yeah, the IRS role in enforcing Obamacare is essentially nil, because they cannot currently enforce collection action. However, I wouldn't hold my breath.
So, Greg, thank you again for coming in. And I think it was an awesome topic to bring into studio. Again, if you're listening right now, if you want to talk to Greg, pick up the phone, give the show a call, 1-888-987-0570. Again, it's 1-888-987-0570. You can talk to Greg personally, and he gives a lot of great advice to my listeners and helps them save a lot of money when it comes to taxes. And whether it's on Obamacare or it's something else that you just want to get expert opinion, I only bring in the best. And obviously, I feel that he's the best because I personally use him myself. So, Greg, thank you again so much for coming in.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on your show.
Absolutely. Coming up next in the Money Hour, if you're thinking about purchasing real estate, you need expert advice from an experienced realtor. And I tell you, I've got one here today. She's one of the most experienced realtors right here in our local market. She's going to be talking about buyer beware and seller beware. Tere Foster with Winderemere Real Estate East right here on 570 KVI after the short break.
Are you puzzled about the real estate market? Do you want to buy a new home but don't know where to begin? Or are you wondering if it's the right time to sell? Terry Foster and Team Foster at Winderemere Real Estate have helped hundreds of people sell their home or find a new one. Tere and Team Foster have over 30 years of experience in selling houses in the Puget Sound area.
This is Tere Foster with Team Foster at Winderemere. To learn more about us, you can visit our website at fosterrealty.com or call me at 425-637-8373.
Are you behind on your mortgage payments and unsure about the road ahead? Magnum Law Group helps families just like yours navigate through the foreclosure avoidance process. Are you underwater on your home and unsure what to do? Magnum Law Group will help you understand your options. Are you facing foreclosure and need to stop a trustee sale? Magnum Law Group has success in doing this and may be able to help you too. If you're tired of dealing with the banks and getting turned down for loan modification, Magnum Law Group will take on the banks for you and lead you through the process for the best possible outcome. They lead the competition with superior knowledge and expertise.
This is Craig from Magnum. You can reach us at 425-605-6393 or at www.magnumlawgroup.com. See you at the next seminar.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I bring in studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market, here to talk everything money. I'm here to help you in today's economy make, spend, and have the most money left over when it's all said and done. And in studio right now, first-time guest of my show, Tere Foster with Winderemere Real Estate East, here to discuss what's happening in today's real estate market and how consumers should be reacting to the current real estate environment when it comes to buying and seller, and kind of the buyer and seller bewares and breaking it down for us. Tere, thank you so much for coming into studio and sharing your expertise with my listeners.
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate being here.
Tere Foster is one of the highest producing residential agents in the nation based on sales volume. Sales volume meaning working with a lot of buyers. She has over 25 years experience in the Puget Sound area. She is highly regarded in the industry by her clients as well as her peers for having in-depth market knowledge and incredible work ethic and strong sense of integrity. Luxury Portfolio International recognized Tere as the agent with the most new luxury home properties in North America from 2009 and 2010. She serves as one of the 4 national leaders in luxury for Luxury Portfolio. So quite a bio and quite an introduction for Tere. And again, that's why she's here to advise my listeners. There is so much to understand with the real estate environment. And I always wish that I could just have one guest in studio and one topic because there's not enough time, but I try to mix it up so you get a little bit of everything. But again, pick up the phone, give my show a call, 1-888-987-0570. Again, it's 1-888-987-0570. If you're thinking about real estate as a buyer or a seller, I guarantee you definitely will want to pick up the phone and talk with Tere. So Tere, let's go ahead and start out from the beginning. Let's look on the buyer side. A listener has found a home. Now what?
They really need to talk to somebody like you and get their mortgage in place.
Okay.
They need to be pre-approved. They need to really understand what they can afford to purchase. And depending on the price category that they're in, if they're looking at a house that might have multiple offers, that means that property will get bid up some. How high can they go before they're over their max of purchase power?
Okay.
That's very important. They need to be real clear, real ready to take action when they find it.
And that's great advice, Tere, and I do on the mortgage side as well. There's two areas to look at. You want to look if you're objective in a payment, because it doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're a move-up buyer, or you're ultimately buying your dream house. The payment objective never seems to match what their target and ultimate goal is in a property, right?
That's correct.
And so in making a decision on what that is, a lot of times it's going to be a lot more than what you can approve for. In most situations, that's what the case is. I know you hear financing is tight, but it really isn't. Banks are lending to a 45% debt to income ratio. So getting it all away for the maximum, and then before going out and working with Tere or your real estate expert, finding out, just as what Tere said, how far you're willing to really push that objective. And Tere, that's not just the mortgage payment.
No, you need to be, I mean, when you buy a house, clearly you have other expenses, right? So you've got your taxes, your insurance, your maintenance. You really, when I work with clients, often they'll say like, well, we don't want to be house poor here.
Yes.
You know, and we all have an ability to like things that cost more. So, you know, it's all about that budget, being really clear about that. But if you're in a multiple offer situation, the challenge is these properties get bid up. And sometimes I actually think people are overpaying because of the frenzy of them being bid up.
Sure.
So walking into the situation really clear on purpose and what you know you can do. And if it gets too high, be comfortable that that's okay. You walk away from that and you find something else.
Great advice, Tere. So let's talk on the inspection.
Okay.
What is it and how important is it?
Okay. It's really important because we now have become pretty much a buyer beware state. It used to be quite a bit more onus on the seller, making sure that they have disclosed everything. And that's still material today. I mean, they still legally have to disclose defects, but a lot of sellers are unaware of their defects. For instance, water in a crawl space. How many sellers go into their crawl space?
Sure.
Or damage to the attic from pests that have been living there for years. So it's really important to hire a really good structural inspector. There are great inspectors out there that have a lot of technology equipment, infrared cameras, moisture meters. They really can tell what's going on inside walls. They do go in crawl spaces. Everything is solvable and fixable, but what you want to do is know everything about the property. You don't want any surprises, because a crawl space cleanup could be $5,000 to $10,000 if there's a real problem there. So that's really the first thing. Know everything about that property in that regard. You might need additional inspections to have additional inspection for the roof, separate electrical. You know, it just depends on how old the house is, how well it's been cared for, and but really you want to turn over all the defects.
And we have an attorney, that real estate attorney, that's going to talk a little bit more on the seller and give us a story of how they really are responsible. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's talk about multiple offer situation. So in a multiple offer situation, let's talk about that lending the letter and what that needs to be and how important that is in a multiple offer.
Yeah, it's essential. Your offer won't be looked at if you don't have it. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you're making an offer with an escalator, so let's say the property is $400,000, but you're willing to pay $425,000. So you may go in with an offer that says, I will pay $5,000 over the highest offer, not to exceed $425,000.
Okay.
And then they have to come back and show you that contract of which you got raised. Maybe you got raised up to $415,000 or $420,000.
Okay.
And they have to actually show that they were able to legitimately do that. So then your pre-approval letter, you should really walk in with the $425,000 on the letter, because that's what you're saying you're willing to go up to. And then there's no question when they're looking at 5 different offers if you really can do this deal.
And from the lending side, I give 2 advices. You want to make sure, and Tere, you can give me your opinion on this. Make sure that your lender is communicating with the buyer's agent. Now, a lot of times they are, because you're actually getting referred by the agent that is working with you. But in some cases, that's not the case. You need to connect your lender and make sure that the listing agent's information is provided when that offer is being presented. Because I tell you, and I talk from experience, I pick up the phone and call the listing agent every single time an offer is accepted, if your agent allows me to do that. Now, the agents that I work with, they all are like, well, yes, Tina, that would be be awesome. And the agent on the other side that's representing the seller on the phone is always amazingly and surprisingly shocked. And I've heard over and over what a difference it's made in the offer that the lenders picked up the phone. Now, the other item is having a guarantee on your closing, which I talked about during Money Chat today. Make sure that your lender has a guarantee. I think $1,000 is a good guarantee that the lender is going to guarantee they're going to close on time. What do you think about that, Tere?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and all those things make a huge difference.
It is huge, and we are having a lot of trouble, honestly, with all the lending issues today to get things closed on time. So I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, and I think realistic, if it's outside of a jumbo really, putting any type of money back guaranteed more than less than a 45-day closing can sometimes get a little tricky. Any other type of financing, FHA, VA, conventional, any other type of financing outside of jumbo, it should be 30-day guarantee. I mean, there's no reason you can't close a loan in 30 days. So, Tere, let's talk about the pre-inspection.
Okay, pre-inspection. I recommend doing that, particularly when you know the home you're trying to buy is in a multiple offer situation. So you go in, if the listing agent is allowing the house to be pre-inspected, you should take that advantage of that opportunity and get that done so you know exactly what you're buying and remove that condition from the contract. So you're walking in with a much cleaner contract, not subject to inspection, because subject to inspection means you can walk away.
Yeah.
So if they pick you out of the group of 5 buyers that they have, but then at the end of the day you walk away, that's not a happy scenario.
Yeah. So you have to decide how much you want the house and what you're willing to do, and a pre-inspection. Exactly.
And the inspection is $500 to $1,000.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not a small item.
Sure. Now, Tere, what about, and I don't think people really think about this unless they have an agent like yourself that really has the expertise and understands how to set aside from all the other offers that are coming in really understanding about closing date, possession date, and how important it is to strategically set those up.
Right. If you are in a situation, it's multiple offers, and your current living situation, you don't have to move, so we're not doing a domino, closing one, buying another all in a row. If you have the flexibility of time, one of the things you can offer a seller is you can say, I will close and I will give you 3 or 5 days to move out.
Okay.
You can give them set them up on a rental agreement, which is preferred because of the legal consequences of that. But that really has set a lot of buyers apart, and that's how they've been able to capture that home, just because that's been more advantageous for the seller, and it doesn't cost you money. Something you can offer.
So just understanding what the seller's needs are and being able to strategically model your offer or mirror your offer to what the seller's needs are.
That's correct, as much as you can.
So, Tere, let's go ahead and switch over to the seller. We've got a few minutes left for your segment here. And let's talk about the importance for the seller and the presentation of their home.
It is critical.
Because a lot of sellers right now are going, who cares? Because I got all these buyers out there. So what's the difference anyways?
Well, it is a very
bad mistake.
Yes, it is. It's a very price sensitive market, and it's a very, we're so used to everything looking so pretty because we're so into images on our computer, and everything is supposed to be just turnkey. We have a market that wants to walk in and everything be all pulled together.
Yeah.
I mean, today I have probably sold no less than 10 houses fully furnished because they walk in and say, I'll take it. I want the furniture in it.
Yeah.
They don't even want to have to go buy the furniture.
Sure.
So it really needs to be in good condition, from the front door to the backyard. You walk up to the front door. Is it painted? Is the hardware in good shape? Are there a few flowers outside the front door? Walking in, it's all presentation. And if you do that and pull it together, and your agent should be able to help you work with your furniture, stage it appropriately. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do this, to really spiff it up. Make it sparkling, really clean, and wow, it makes a huge difference. And then pricing is everything.
Yes, yeah. And before we get to pricing really quickly on that same note, Terry, with the presentation, it's not really about because there is lack of inventory in a lot of the markets, many of the markets that you're working in. And it's not really about whether they're going to get an offer. We know chances in those they're going to get an offer, they're going to get multiple offers, but they're not going to get as many multiple offers and not to the extent of price if they don't have that premier presentation.
Well, and there's a difference of quality of offer.
Yes.
Sometimes
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, we'll have multiple offers, but even though they know that there's going to be 5 offers, agents will write below list price.
Yeah.
They will come in low.
Sure.
And it's very interesting. And if they think that there's a lot of issues with the property, they will also discount it when they make their offer.
Sure.
And their offer will be more subject to inspection, that kind of thing, where if you remove all that, then you get this really good set of quality offers that you can pick from.
Yeah. Terry, thank you so much. The engineer always chimes in that music, which tells me I got to go to break. I'm definitely going to have you back in. I just appreciate so much finally being able to get you in studio with your busy schedule and sharing your expertise with my listeners. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
And coming up next on the Money Hour, purchasing real estate can be tricky, and there's some really expensive mistakes that you can make. Today, I'm excited to share information from a legal side when it comes to residential real estate. Ken Davidson with Davidson and Kilpatric, right here on 570 KVI after this short break.
Are you underwater on your home and unsure about what to do? Davidson and Kilpatric helps owners of distressed properties understand all their options and pursue a path forward. Their attorneys and staff have helped hundreds of owners negotiate and close short sales or pursue other solutions for underwater properties.
Hi, I'm Ken Davidson of Davidson and Kilpatric. Call us at 425-822-2228 and talk to us about a short sale or other problems you may be having with your distressed property. The call will cost you nothing. Or you can visit us online at kirklandlaw.com.
Isn't it time you start getting what you want? I'm Jason Watacha, owner of Noble Ridge Construction, specialist in custom home building and remodeling. It's time to make yourself happy and create the home that fits your desires and style. That process starts by visiting us at nobleridgeconstruction.com or follow us on Facebook to get inspired. You can also see featured custom lots available, architects, and Signature Series homes for sale by us. nobleridgeconstruction.com. That's nobleridgeconstruction.com. Dreams begin here.
Free electricity from your roof? It's possible with solar energy. Here's Amy from Solterra Systems.
There's never been a better time to install solar in Washington, and yes, we do get enough sun. Incentives cover over 50% of the installation cost, and zero down financing is available. Enjoy watching your meter run backwards this summer by installing solar now.
Go to useyourroof.com to find out how easy it can be. That's useyourroof.com or call 800-865-9005 to get your free site assessment from Solterra Systems.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Well, welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. Each week I share expert advice and inside knowledge on how today's events in our local economy can affect your money. Now in studio, last guest in studio and a first-time guest to the show. Very happy to have Ken Davidson with Davidson and Kilpatric. Buying a home will probably be the largest and most significant purchase you'll make in your life, and it involves the law of real property, which is unique and raises special issues. So I'm excited to have Ken in studio to break it down for you. Ken, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Tina. Thanks for having me.
Ken Davidson with Davidson and Kilpatric possesses a broad range of experience representing clients in litigation as well as business and real estate transactions. He's handled lawsuits involving construction liens and disputes, real estate purchase contracts, wrongful termination of employment, medical and legal malpractice, wrongful death, partnership disputes, stockbroker misconduct, and real estate title disputes. You do a little bit of everything, Ken.
Unfortunately, I've been doing it for a long time, so I've had an opportunity to see just about every area.
That is awesome. Well, today I wanted to bring Ken in specifically to talk about real estate. And so let's go ahead and start out, Ken. How can a listener protect themselves against unexpected problems with property after purchasing it?
Buyers should go into purchasing property guided by the principle of buyer beware. So they should be asking questions.
See, we've heard that twice today in studio.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to ask questions, inspect, investigate.
Okay. So, Ken, what about explaining to my listeners about Form 17 and can a seller, and what that is, and can a buyer really rely on Form 17 to protect them?
Well, Form 17 is a form that real estate agents use that is really contains the questions that are required by statute under the seller's disclosure statement.
Okay.
And these are a set of questions that the statute says a buyer or seller has to provide the answers to a buyer. They get to answer the question yes, no, or don't know. And it's meant as a guide to the buyer, but it is not does not create a cause of action against a seller in the event the seller has said something on the disclosure statement that proves not to be correct.
Okay, and so stories are always good, and I know you have a lot of really interesting ones. One particular that I want you to share, and you know which one that I want, with the case that happened with the seller that you would think that they would have been liable and not so much. Can you share that?
Yes, I think you're referring to a recent decision of the Court of Appeals that came down that I think
pretty shocking.
Probably most people would think that this seller should have been drawn and quartered. This seller had bought a property and started to remodel it, and in the course of remodeling it, discovered rot throughout the house. And it came out at trial that his contractor, in fact, pointed out that he was having a hard time getting screws to affix to the floor because the wood was so soft, and was finding rot around the belly band and being told by the seller to simply put trim over it. And the seller had, the court found, gone about concealing rot throughout the house as part of the remodel. And the seller
just lied, or didn't tell everything.
No, did not disclose. Mm-hmm. So when the property went on the market, the seller made no disclosures about all of this. The buyer did some inspection and found a couple little areas where there was some evidence of rot.
Okay.
And didn't inspect any further or ask any further questions of the seller. When the buyer bought the property, the buyer then found this rot extensive throughout the house to such a degree that the buyer's builder said, you're better off to simply bulldoze this house than try to repair it. And the buyer sued the seller for negligent misrepresentation, breach of the Consumer Protection Act, because this seller happened to also have been a licensed realtor.
Boy, it just keeps getting worse.
The trial court awarded the buyer on all counts six-figure judgment, but the Court of Appeals reversed, saying that the buyer had some awareness of problems with rot because they found rot in certain areas and didn't pursue it further.
Yeah.
And also didn't show to the court that further questions to the seller or actions would have been futile on their part. So as a result, the court said, buyers, you are on notice, buyer beware.
Yeah, buyer beware. So kind of discouraging, but it is what it is. And that's why you really need to understand from your point of view, from a legal side, if the Form 17 really isn't going to do the protection that a buyer may think that it's doing, what protection is there? How do they protect themselves?
Well, the only way to protect themselves in terms of having a cause of action against the seller would be to put something in the contract itself, a warranty in the contract in which the seller is representing and warranting that the seller's made a full disclosure of the defects.
So adding an addendum to the contract.
Yes.
Okay. So can the MLS attempts to have neutral contract Is that true?
I'd say that's true. The agents are using these contracts when they're representing a buyer or when they're representing a seller, and these are prepared by an association for realtors to be able to conveniently use in either situation, standard situations.
Okay. So we could actually do a whole segment with you just on this one question alone, but breaking it down in a simple way, the difference between a single family home and a condo. What's the biggest difference when we're talking about legal things in purchasing one versus the other?
Well, when you're buying a condo, you're not only buying the apartment that you're seeing, but you're buying into an association that owns the building and the grounds. And so you want to know that you're buying into this association that is well financed and in sound condition. Because if it's not, you may find yourself as a member of that association later on being assessed a special assessment to cover some major repair that has to go on in the building. So you could have an apartment that looks very attractive to the buyer, but the hidden cost may be in the future assessment to replace the roof or to attend to some other major problem that the building has.
Okay. And what about, can you talk about some associations that are borrowing huge sums of money and how that can affect a buyer?
Well, many associations have not established good reserves to cover capital repairs, and 20 or 30 years have gone by and they find themselves needing to do something major to address roof leaks, water intrusion through the windows, whatever. And so many of the associations are finding ways to borrow large sums of money, which they're going to repay by making large assessments against their members.
And so, what about the interviewing process? Are there certain people that a buyer maybe can interview to get some more information?
Certainly. I mean, a buyer, first of all, receives a resale certificate on a previously owned condominium, a public disclosure statement on a new condominium that provides a lot of information, including past minutes of the board meeting, of meetings of the members. The buyer should look through that information very carefully, potentially talk to the officers of the association or other members in the association to find out whether there's been any discussion in the past about need for capital improvements or special assessments or any other problems with the building.
Okay. So I may have a listener, maybe a lot of listeners that are currently thinking of buying real estate right now. Should they use a real estate attorney?
I think in most cases, yes. There may be some situations where they feel they don't have the time or it's a fairly straightforward transaction. But I think given this environment we're in where it's buyer beware, I think they're wise to get legal counsel. Okay.
And what about warranties? Are there what type of warranties come with purchasing a home?
In our state, there is only an implied warranty of habitability that applies to a new home that a builder has built, and it is for the benefit of the first buyer.
Okay.
Some people think, well, all homes come with a 1-year warranty. They do not. It's custom.
You can get one.
You can get one.
But it doesn't come with it.
Right. And many good contractors out there offer a warranty. But a warranty is only as good as the document that creates it. And so a lot of them are limited warranties. So you have to look through that warranty very carefully to see what's coming with it if it's a new home. If it's a used home, there is no warranty unless, again, you put something in the contract by which the seller's giving you some warranties or passing on to you maybe a warranty that the seller had received from a roofer or something like that.
Which in all reality, in this market and in a existing home, going in and asking for that additional probably is not going to happen. They'll choose the next offer. So like Tere had said in her segment, you really have to decide what's important and decide what you're willing to do to get that home. So let's go ahead and switch over to current homeowners, Ken. And I know that there still are a lot of people that are dealing with the effect of the crisis in 2008 wait and maybe running into challenges now and wondering about short sale, how do they know if they would qualify or possibly qualify for a short sale?
Well, anybody can to short sell a property. Short selling a property means selling it for less than the amount you owe and getting your lender to agree to accept the proceeds from that sale as full settlement for the obligation. However, most lenders don't want to deal with people with a short sale unless they can demonstrate some sort of hardship.
Sure.
So that's one of our first things that we do with a client is we identify, so what is the hardship we're going to present to this lender?
Okay. And so what would be the reason that they would do a short sale versus just giving the home right back, which would be a foreclosure?
It has to do with your ability to borrow in the future, as you may be well aware of. If you have gone through a foreclosure under the federally supported and backed mortgage programs, you're going to be out of that market for 5 years. And if you've done a short sale, your time for reentry is much shorter. In fact, now the FHA has come out with some recent guidelines that can shorten it in certain circumstances to as little as a year. Also, there's that question that is on the mortgage application: has any property you owned or been the subject of a foreclosure or deed in lieu of foreclosure in the last 7 years? So the foreclosure can stay with you a long time.
Sure.
And the short sale is not a public record. It's something that allows you to move on and has a lot fewer implications on not only your credit, but potentially in some cases we've had clients who are concerned about security clearances or implications on employment. So in those circumstances, short sales much more beneficial.
You know, we have so much knowledge in studio today, and I'm just sitting over here thinking, you know what I'm going to do? If you're listening today, I'm excited. We need to have like a panel. We need to have a topic and have all of you guys talking together, because there's just such a wealth of knowledge. And I know that each of you would have answers for these questions in your own experience in your field. But I was just kind of talking out loud there because I'm looking at you and my other two guests going, wow, this would just be awesome to have a panel and all talk together about some of these things that my listeners are dealing with and could use each of your expert opinions on. Now, let's go, and Greg isn't on mic because we've already talked about Greg, and actually there's my chime in right there. I got to go to commercial, so we can't talk about the tax implications. We'll have to do that next time when we have a panel and I can bring all you in. Ken, thank you so much. First time in studio for coming in. It was awesome to have you here. Look forward to having you back again.
Thank you.
And this is Tina Mitchell, again, your mortgage expert and your host of the Money Hour right here on 570 KBI. I want to thank you very, very much for being here with me on a Sunday. I'm here every Sunday, same time, same place, 570 KBI. Enjoy the rest of your day and come back next Sunday. Thanks, you guys.
Isn't it time you start getting what you want? I'm Jason Watacha, owner of Noble Ridge Construction, specialist in custom home building and remodeling. It's time to make yourself happy and create the home that fits your desires and style. That process starts by visiting us at nobleridgeconstruction.com or follow us on Facebook to get inspired. You can also see featured custom lots available, architects, and signature series homes for sale by us. nobleridgeconstruction.com. That's nobleridgeconstruction.com. Dreams begin here.
The preceding program was paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395, is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.